Adobe is the most undervalued company in the stock market because revenue is growing, net income is growing, earnings per share is growing. Not only that, but here's the scary thing, that Adobe's gross margin has exceeded Nvidia's gross margin. This is crazy, right? With all that, Adobe's stock price is down 45% from its all-time high. In this episode, I will show you why Adobe can 2x from today's price. Also, I'll talk about this post from X. This guy says that AI is not killing Adobe, but Adobe is killing it with AI, especially after Adobe's new deal with Qualcomm. Also, I'll talk about this post from X where this guy is showing how undervalued Adobe is by comparing cash flow per share versus stock price. Also, I'll talk about this post from Joseph Carlson where he says that Adobe has reached a point where it is nearly impossible to lose money due to the strong cash flow it has accumulated over the years. So will AI kill Adobe? Look at this post. To summarize it for you, this guy says that Adobe announced a deal between Adobe and Qualcomm. So Qualcomm is adopting Adobe's GenStudio along with Firefly Express and Experience Manager to modernize its entire marketing content workflow with generative AI. The move from Qualcomm aims to scale personalized content creation management and measurement while deepening the long-standing relationship or partnership between Qualcomm and Adobe. But why huge companies such as Qualcomm chose Adobe specifically, and what this thing has to do with AI not killing Adobe? I will simplify it to you. Imagine, for example, a huge company like Qualcomm trying to run their marketing. It is like running a giant restaurant. Now, they could hire a bunch of different chefs, one for pasta, one for burger, and one for dessert, but none of them talk to each other. So the kitchen is going to be in a total mess. That's what it's like if they used a bunch of random AI tools from different startups, or they have another option. They could hire only one professional catering team that brings all chefs together and all recipes and even the cleaning crew, all working together perfectly in sync. That is Adobe with GenStudio, Firefly, and all the tools under one roof. Qualcomm gets speed and brand safety and a system that actually works together. So when people say that AI is going to kill Adobe, I say no way. Because for big companies, Adobe isn't just another tool. It is the entire kitchen. And that's why exactly I'm bullish on Adobe. And Adobe isn't losing to AI. Adobe is winning with it. That's what I think. But why it is impossible for Adobe to lose money now? Look at this post from X by Joseph Carlson where he says that Adobe has finally got to the category of stock where it's extremely difficult to come up with a scenario of losing money. You can assume a 7% free cash flow per share growth rate and a 6% yield, and you still get an 8% compounded return. In other words, Joseph is trying to say that on paper, Adobe offers a steady growth income which makes it safe long-term investment. For example, imagine that you bought $1,000 worth of Adobe shares today at this price, assuming that Adobe will not grow, grow more than that, which is nearly impossible, but let's assume that, okay, this worst case scenario. You will still be safe with this worst case scenario because after 1 year, your $1,000 will be $1,080, and after 5 years, your $1,000 will be $1,470. After 10 years, it's gonna double and it's gonna be $2,160. Again, this is assuming that Adobe does not grow more than that. In other words, this post says even with the modest assumption, Adobe looks like a stock that will steadily make investors money over time. But why I think Adobe could easily double from today's price? Look at this post. The red bars are the free cash flow, which is the amount of cash Adobe generates after covering expenses and investments, while the white line is the stock price. From 2015 till 2020, both free cash flow and stock price are climbing together, which makes sense because when a company produces more cash, its stock usually rises. But in recent years, from 2022 until 2025, the story changes. Free cash flow kept growing, which is the red bars, and are rising, but the stock price is dropping or moved sideways. This means that the business fundamentals are still strong, but the stock price is not reflecting it right now. This This can happen because of the stock market sentiment, such as investors are worried about AI, or the competition or growth slowed down. As soon as any news comes up that Adobe is not affected by AI, just like what happened to Google in the past few weeks, you will see Adobe's price rally big time, not a small one like Google's. I think this time it will be big because the stock is down more than what it should be priced in. Another example is Apple back in 2015 until 2016. Apple's free cash flow kept growing, selling iPhones and MacBooks. The stock dropped and stayed flat for 2 years because investors were worried about iPhone saturation and slowing China sales. By 2017, Apple kept putting good numbers and proving it could still grow, generating massive cash. And the stock price surged upward and doubled because the fundamentals are good. Sometimes the market pauses while the company keeps generating cash. Eventually, if fundamentals stay strong, stock price usually aligns. Another example is Microsoft back in 2013. Microsoft launched Microsoft Office 365, and it was generating massive income for Microsoft. Cash flow grew steadily, but the stock did not move much because Wall Street was not convinced about cloud yet, when confidence was built, that's the time when the stock price skyrocketed in 2016. Adobe right now is more like Apple back in 2015, and it's like Microsoft back in 2013. If Adobe continues putting good numbers, you will see the stock price skyrocket within the next 2 to 3 years. I think you can easily see Adobe's stock price hitting $1,000. But is it a good time to buy the stock now, especially after Fed starting cutting rates? If you want to know what professionals predict what's going to happen to the market in the upcoming 12 months, watch this video where I shared the top 4 Wall Street analysts predict the stock market after rate cuts. It is insane. You gotta watch it.